Hi YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Cars. So big shout out to the guys at MB Models. Link for this one will be in the description below. They've helped me source this one. And this is what I believe is the first of the second batch of the Team Associated Rc10 CC. So let's see if they listen to any of the sort of criticisms of the first batch. Must admit, from somebody that's kind of wanting to leave this kind of clear, was a bit disappointed to see the body shells getting sort of damaged and scratched up. But let's bring you in for a close-up look and see what we make of this one. So I've cut the seals on the box already. Let's have a look. So we got his MB stickers. Now straight away, pleased to see that the body shell is now completely in its own bag. So let's see if anything has got marks on this one. Looks pretty much perfect. Not really seeing any damage on it anywhere. So yeah, looks like Team Associated have addressed the issue of the body getting scratched. The chassis is now in the bottom of the box without the body slid on it. And I must admit, these edges don't feel too sharp. I did see a few people say they'd got issues where these were really sharp and the body was sat on top. I think it'd probably still mark it, which is why they've gone for the separate bag approach, but definitely much appreciated. We have the driver, and that's undamaged. We've got a wing, completely undamaged. We've got his clear parts, so no damage on them. We have more clear parts and some brass bushings, or bronze phosphorus I think they are, with his drive shafts. But not seeing any damaged parts at all. More bushings and more clear parts, and the gear cover. And we do have his wheels and tyres. Shock towers. And we get our grease and what looks like slipper clutch and a few drive gears, motor plate. And a spur gear, more shock tower, and look like turnbuckles, and very nice looking shocks with the oil, plenty of inserts, and then a bumper. We do have a small toolkit, and then we have our instructions with his battery tie down, looks like window masks, some stickers and an antenna straw. So yeah, nice to see. It looks like they've actually listened to the criticism on how the RC10cc was packaged, so it looks like they've addressed the issues in that. We've got no damage on the parts to what I can see. Doesn't seem to be a lot of parts to these, with it being an older type RC. But definitely nice to see when a company sort of listens to any criticism. And again, big shout out to the guys at MB Models. Really looking forward to building this one. So I think all that's left to do now is crack on with the build. Right, so first we're going to need chassis, bumper, so bag A. We got these two long screws, short screw, and they're going to mount down to the chassis, so attaching the bumper and the chassis together. Now it does show thread lock, but it kind of points to that one. Not sure why you'd thread lock that and not the other two, but I don't think it's going to hurt if we thread lock them all, and I believe 2.5mm driver should be the exact size or very close for these, just because it overlaps with the US sizes. And I'm going to put a little bit of thread lock on the two outer ones as well, just to try and hold them in place. Now you should only need the thread lock right down at the bottom. So first off, I'm going to get the smaller of the screws in. I'm not going to tighten that all the way down until I get these two longer ones in. It is a very different experience to a modern RC. So let's quickly get all three of these in, or started. And then you just want to nip these up. Don't go over tight with these, because it's only soft aluminium that you're fastening these into, and you will end up shearing it off. So once we've got that in place, we then need to move on to, it shows you 4 of these spacers, but it only actually tells you to use 2 of them. So we're going to want this screw through the bottom, then we're going to want 2 of them on, then we're going to want this clear plastic thing, and we've got to screw this in, and so far it don't feel too bad, don't feel like it's going to split it or anything. Doesn't tell you the orientation for the hole, but I'm guessing it's front to back, so let's see if we can line that up. And again, don't go crazy tight with any of these plastic parts. So that is part 1 finished. Let's move on to see what else we've got. Now, if you're in America, you'll not have a problem with this. If you're in UK, you need a set of sockets, and they're not metric. Now, the actual hex heads, the 2.5mm, kind of lines up with US sizing, but for these, you're going to want a 3/16 socket, and it will make your life so much easier to put these in. So first off, we're going to want one in the middle, and again, when you're tightening these up, just keep checking. You don't want to be over tightening them, because this type of plastic, it's definitely easy to strip and it's really easy to shatter. So we want one in the center on this first steering part, and then one all the way over to the side. And right about now, I'm wondering why I've never used this socket set while I've been building RCs, instead of using these tiny little things all the time, because this is so much easier. So once we've got them in, move along to this part, and again we're going for the first one in the center. Then once we've got a center one in, we're going to go all the way to the opposite side. And if you feel these getting really tight, just slow down screwing them in. Give the screw and the plastic time to cool down a little bit. So once we've got these assembled, that's how they should look. Then we're going to need 2 more of our washers. We're going to need the nut, and I believe these are 8/32. Then we're going to bring back our RC. We're going to put 1 washer over each one of our longer screws. Once we've got that in place, I'm going to drop part of your steering on each side. Then we need the final part, so I believe that bit is the bit that goes to servo. Then we've got to carefully screw these down, and you just want to screw them down till it's snug. You don't want to over tighten them. And again, if you've got the correct socket, it will make this so much easier. And these are lock nuts, so you don't need to sort of crimp them all the way down. All we're looking for is nice free movement, but no up and down play. So you just want nice free movement for your steering, no up and down play in them at all. And they'll stay in place because they're lock nuts. Right, so let's move along. So for this part, we're going to get one of our ball studs and the left hub carrier. So you want your taper to the opposite side to where we're putting this ball stud in. So there's a little taper, and as ball stud goes on the back. Then we're going to get our hub, and again we're going to want to fit a ball stud, and this time it's facing upwards with the arm facing away from you. So we should be in that position. Then we're going to need one of his axles and a little clip. So we should just be able to slide the axle through. And then we got to get one of my favourite things in the world, these little E-clips or C-clips. And we've got to sit that on the back and then clip it into place. Not too bad to do on these. So finally, you're going to want to get one of these little nuts. In fact, it's going to be easier to put the thread lock on the back of this. And then we just need to get that in place. Let's see if we've got a socket that fits that one. Yep. So you don't need to go crazy tight with that. We're just nipping it up. And let's have a look what size fits that one. That's a 1/4. So once we've got this assembled, we're going to build exactly the same but the opposite way around. So when we're finished, this is kind of what we should be looking at. So just a mirror image of each other, tapered edges away from the ball studs, and then these facing backwards. So that should be us all done. So we should be able to carry on. So next we're going to be assembling as hubs. So we're going to get ball stud facing back and the ball stud facing upwards. Slide them together. Then we're going to get one of his little pins and pop that in. Then we've got to get a little clip on the top. And then same again on the bottom. These aren't going to go in together too bad. One thing I have noticed in the few minutes since we've done these is both of these have completely shattered. They've got micro fractures running all the way through them, and I really didn't tighten these up at all, and I didn't crunch the screw up on the back. So yeah, not a brilliant design. I don't think they're going to last long. So next, and these again are the shorter pins, so they're slightly longer than the ones we're using for the hubs, but they're not the longest ones that we've got. And you want that facing you. So if we carefully slide that through, that's the sort of position we want to end up in. And then all we've got to do is get our little clips. And I'm not entirely sure how well all this is going to come through on camera. Especially with all this being clear. So that's one clip on. Then we just want to get the second clip, try and get that into place. And there we go. So yeah, although it seems like they've addressed the issue with the body shell getting scratched, definitely not addressed all the issues with this RC. So we're then going to do exactly the same for the right hand side, so you just want to mirror these. So we'll get that built up and we'll carry on. So once we've finished, this is pretty much what we should be looking at. Be nice if these weren't trying to crack and explode, but kind of goes with territory with this kind of plastic. I will message the seller and see if there's anything they can do about it, or Team Associated, but we shall crack on and see how we get on with build. I did kind of expect a bit of that in some parts, but it does seem weird how both these have gone but nothing else has. So let's carry on. So moving on, we're going to want the shorter of the machine head screws, and we've got to get the mount into position with the shock tower. And this is definitely going to be easier if you've got some longer Allen keys that fit than the ones that come in kit. And one thing I've found with these, don't try and screw it in too quick, because it'll just heat up the screw, and we don't want to be shearing any of these off. Then as you come to tighten this up, just try and get it level with the base. These are actually marked right and left. So we've got one in place, and we just need to get the other one in place now. So I'll quickly screw this one down. So next up, we're going to need a couple of ball studs, and these are going to screw through into our shock tower. And again with these, no need to go crazy tight with them, because we are putting a nut on the back and thread lock. So just screw them in pretty carefully. Shouldn't be any issues with this splitting like the steering arms did, because it is fiberglass basically, and these are going to go in the innermost of the top holes. So just get them down level, don't over tighten them. And then again, it's asking for a little bit of thread lock on the back of these. So once we've got his thread lock in place, we can then just drop these screws on. And we just want to nip these up to it. Don't need to go crazy with them, because the thread lock's going to hold them in place anyway. Then moving along, we should have the longer of the machine head screws. So you're going to want 2 of these, and these again are going to screw all the way in from the back. So you want these going in from back, so I'll get them screwed down. So moving on, we've got the screws in, then we're going to want these little washers on. Once you've got them in place, it is again asking for a tiny bit of thread lock. So I'd just put a little bit on. So once we've got our thread lock in place, we're just going to drop a nut on each one. And again, pretty much like everything on this build, bearing in mind it's mainly just for show, so you don't need to go crazy tight with them. Just nip them up, because the thread lock is going to do its thing. It's going to dry on them and it's going to hold them in place. So it's not like you've got to tighten any part of this up to within an inch of its life. You're just literally snugging everything down. Should be sufficient to hold it. So let's bring the RC back. So we're going to mount the shock tower up front. So it's probably going to be a lot easier doing this upside down. But if we line it up, we basically, I think there's 6 of these. And these are going into plastic. So 1, don't crank them all the way down. And 2, we don't need any thread lock, because they shouldn't be vibrating out anyway. So we'll get all 6 of them tightened down and see what else we've got. So moving on, we now need to mount the suspension arms. So if we get that into place, then we got to drop one of these pins through, and these are the longer ones. So we get that through on both sides. And then we just need to put a little E-clip on the front and back of each one of them. And I'm going to do it off camera because it's getting a bit awkward to try and position this now. So I'll get them clipped on. So there we have it, the front steering and suspension assembled on this little Rc10 CC. And I must admit, up to now, quite enjoying the build. Bit disappointed in these arms cracking, and so far up to yet I've had 1 E-clip missing, which I've had to take out another bag, and hopefully we don't need it, or it's been put in the wrong bag. But this is kind of an ongoing theme with the Team Associated kit. So I built the DR10, and that came with, I think, 1 broken seal on something. The front bumper was completely missing in the kit. The wrong bumper was in the kit. So yeah, maybe they got a little bit of quality control issues with the Team Associated kits. And I mean, ultimately, this is not a cheap kit. Bearing in mind all the R&D for everything on this has been paid for years ago. So literally it's just chuck the old tools out and refire up a production line, which yeah, does have a cost to it. But all this vehicle has been paid for multiple times over, years back when they first did it. And I think it would have been nice to see a little bit more quality control, but the parts seem to fit. They seem to fit fine. I'll put some high-res pictures of the cracks that I've got in these arms, and I mean, ultimately I've put it together on video. You've seen how gentle I've put all these ball studs in, and none of the other parts have cracked, just these little arms. Would have been nice for something sort of like this. Don't really think it'd have hurt for these to be aluminium, just plain silver alloy in the kit. But anyway, that's enough of my incessant ramblings. So let's wrap this one up. So that's steps 1 to 4 of the RC10cc build. Wasn't really expecting too much from this kit, especially with it being a really old kit, but also the issues what I'd seen online from people. Kind of disappointed that these are still cracking. There is an awful lot of air bubbles trapped in quite a lot of parts, which I know that kind of goes with territory with this sort of thing, but I would have liked to see, for the price these kits are, a little bit more quality control. And by the looks of it so far, I've got at least one E-clip missing. I have checked all the bags, and I do pour them out into the metal magnetic trays, so it's not like one's gone missing. But yeah, quite like the actual car. Think it could have been executed a bit better. At least they've now addressed the issue with the body getting scratched in delivery. But looks like we're still going to have to deal with microfractures on some of these smaller clear parts. But thanks again for watching Wtf Rc Cars. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, share to friends and family, and catch you guys again in the next one.